Hello everyone. So in this video, I want to talk about documentation. Now, if you have a Jira instance, then of course you want to configure it and customize it for your team's needs. And that is why people use Jira. That is why companies love deploying Jira because of course, the customizations. Now, the thing is, when it comes to these customizations or the process or let us say some kind of policy, the recommendation is always, to document it somewhere. Now, when you document these proposed configurations or the current way of working, basically the current setup that you have in your Jira for, let us say, a specific project or maybe specific projects, then you can refer to that documentation to, of course, make future changes, because if a Jira admin has to make some changes, and there should be a place or a reference. Now, the problem is that when it comes to documentation, and by the way, documentation can be for the end user, right? So imagine you have a new team member joining in your program and you want to let them know how you work. So you can point them to this particular document where they can, of course, learn about how Jira project will work for them and what is the process, right? Now, at the same time, there should be a similar documentation, or you might want to have a similar documentation for your Jira administrators, because when you have to make further changes, then someone has to refer to that particular page or that document. Now, it is, of course, a suggestion or a best practice to have this documentation, and I think you should definitely do it. But at the same time, you should probably find a balance, because in Jira, when it comes to customizations, it is very difficult to keep the documentation up to date with, of course, your current setup. And not only the documentation of the configurations, but maybe you have a lot of automations in place. Now, of course, when we work with our clients, we, of course, do a lot of script runner work. And when it comes to script runner, it is all about writing a script, right? And that script will do something. It will behave in a certain way, right? And that will, of course, dictate how your teams will work. Just to give you a simple example, let us say you are asking people to raise a bug in a project, right? And based on some input on that particular issue create or bugs create screen, maybe if there's a checkbox ticked in, or maybe there is a drop-down value selected, you may want to do some automations, like maybe you want to alert a different tool, or maybe you just want to create a new issue, a linked issue in a separate project. Now, when you have these things like automations in place, of course, along with configurations, and as a user, of course, I should know what these things can do or will do. And at the same time, there has to be some documentation for both the users and also the administrators. Now, it is actually a very big problem because there is no easy way in Jira to basically export the configurations in a form of a human readable document or a page, right? Or vice versa. So someone has to basically maintain this page. So the way we do it is, of course, we don't really always overdo it. We, of course, try to document things that that cannot be read from Jira by the administrators, or maybe the process that you're trying to implement for your end users. Try to make that process in Jira intuitive. So if you're trying to create a new issue, then it should be very clear for the end user. Try to have some help description somewhere on the fields, maybe add a message somewhere that if you click on this button, then what can happen. So basically what I'm saying here is that try your configurations, the way you define your configurations or even automations, in a way so that you don't have to rely 100% on a document, at least for the end users. For the administrators, for consultants, for someone who is basically maintaining those automations, you can, of course, have a separate detailed document. And when we do these things, of course, we aim to have a document which we aim to keep up to date. So the way we work, or way we would work, is we of course have, let us say, a ticket, right? So people will raise a ticket for us that, okay, we want to have these new automations. So whenever something is new, it is actually quite easy because you're just doing it for the very first time, and documenting is of course again not a problem. But when it comes to updating something which is already there or some changes, then it is a problem, because first of all we have to look at the requirement, which is of course in Jira ticket. Then we have to refer to the page, the Confluence page, where that existing automation or configurations are stored. And then of course we have to look at how these things are stored in or configured in Jira. So we have to basically look at 3 different places, and imagine when we do these things, we of course have to do it on staging. So it is actually a big problem, because staging may not always be up to date with production. So of course there is no solution to be honest, but what I'm trying to say here is that if you have a documentation which is up to date, then it is of course going to help you, not really right now but also in future, because sometimes you may also want to refer to what you did 6 months ago. So try to keep this documentation in place, but whenever it comes to the code, of course just write code in a way so that it is readable. Because when you write Groovy scripts, for example, in Jira using a script runner, then of course you can write code which only you can understand, but try to keep your code simple. And of course, whenever you're using a script runner for Jira using, let us say, Groovy scripts, you're not really going to do any heavy development. It's more about just filling in the gaps, right? Like in most of the cases, of course, sometimes we do like heavy work, but in most of the cases, we try to just fill in the gaps. We try to improve the existing behavior of your Jira projects or your processes. And when it comes to documentation, it is always good to have a documentation, but at the same time, if you think it is not really relevant to go into all the details, then don't. For example, if you're trying to just highlight how this automation will work, then of course you have a script which people can refer to, like let us say a listener, but maybe create a simple diagram, or maybe in bullet points explain what that particular automation will do. And the way we try to do it is we actually try to keep it within the code. For example, if you have a listener, then just on top add a comment, like just have some information about what this script is doing, what will be the input, what will be the expected outcome, and of course you can also refer it in the script that this particular piece of listener, this Groovy script is for this particular ticket, right? So you can always refer back. And whenever you are let us say writing scripts in Jira, let us say a listener or a behavior, always keep the issue key, the ticket number somewhere in the description, or maybe the title of that particular listener, or maybe a post function, or maybe a validator, right? So that you can refer or search for that particular script again in future. So yeah, these are some small things that I wanted to talk about. And basically, you have to find a balance, and there is no right or wrong way of doing it. Documentation, you can of course do the most detailed documentation, or you can probably just do very high level. It really depends on how many resources you have, because you may be managing a very big Jira instance where you just have 2 people, and your priority is of course to deliver the work and support your Jira instance, support the teams. Of course, if you have a team of 20 people and you're doing the same maintenance of the same Jira instance, and of course you can devote a couple of your junior resources to write those or keep those documentations up to date. All right, that is all I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something new today. Thank you very much. Bye bye.